Welcome to The Retirement Architect. My name is Cynthia Defazio, and I'm joined today by David Reyes. He is founder and chief financial architect of Reyes Financial Architecture. How are you, David? It's good to see you.
How are you today?
I am doing fantastic. Thank you so much. How have you been since our last show? Busy?
Good. Busy. Yeah. Normal. Yes. All the above.
I know, it's been crazy because I know obviously we're starting with the radio, of course, and then segueing into television, and you've done television in the past. You have been booking one consultation after the next. So it's been quite busy for your whole office.
Yes, yes. It's good. I think it just goes to show how much people really want help.
Absolutely.
And so I just feel good to be in a position, blessed to be in a position to do that because there's a lot of folks that just need help. And, I've done doing this for my 25th year exactly. Started August of '95, moved from Sacramento to San Diego. So sold everything, had my car and my stuff. That was it. So you get to do in your 20s, right?
Absolutely.
Right, life's easy.
You're brave and you just
go. Luckily it worked out. I got 3 kids, a wife, and a dog, and all that. But But it's just nice to be in a position to help people because doing this, for now for again 2.5 decades, you realize more and more and more that people need more and more help. You think, well, everybody's gotten their help. No. When you have 10,000 baby boomers retiring every day, I think is still the number. 10,000, that's people need help, and so that won't go away. And so being in a position with you here to be able to talk about this on television and do radio and do talks and just feel very, 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 very blessed to be able to do that for everybody.
Absolutely. And David, there is such a need for information, which is why I love your book so much, which is actually an Amazon bestseller. We need to talk about that because that's pretty amazing, but I'm not surprised because you're just an excellent author. But Mama's Secret Recipe for Retirement Success.
Yes.
I love this book. It's fantastic. So what was the inspiration behind writing this particular book, David?
Well, I was approached by a good friend of mine, a partner of mine, my mentor in the business, and we decided to collaborate on a book together with some other advisors across the country. So it's a really good book. It was written with Jack Canfield, who is the author of the Chicken Soup of the Soul series. So he's one of the most successful authors in the world, actually. But he does a lot of niche books on different things. Gardening, but he kind of uses his influence to help people in different topics he cares about, and finance is one of them. So I got approached to do it a couple years ago. I decided to do it, and it talks a lot about, in plain English, the stock market, risk of the market, cash flow planning, in retirement, taxes. So it's written in a very simple manner. It's a big book, but it's more referencey. You can look at a topic, taxes, inflation, which we can chat about, retirement planning. Let's talk about annuities. Are they good? Or there's lots of debate about about all kinds of different financial topics. The A word, we call it, but all kinds of different good topics that are really the book was designed to speak to people directly, the retail client. Who's looking for really good information, real information.
Sure. Excellent chapter about inflation.
Yes.
Let's talk about that because we need to talk about what the future is going to look like for people that are maybe 10, 20 years from now. Inflation is obviously going to keep growing. What are your thoughts, David? Yeah,
I wrote the book. I was worried about inflation, but not as so much as I am today. And there's a chapter 51, it says, I write, inflation may come back with a vengeance. And Ronald Reagan, back when he got elected in 1980 and 81, I think he said inflation is violent as a mugger, as dangerous as an armed robber, and basically talking about how inflation was just devastating to the economy. Back in when Carter came in, Carter was president, he became president. Him and Paul Volcker, who was the Federal Reserve chairman, kind of broke the back of inflation. You may or may not remember, but interest rates were in the 15% range. And inflation was averaging between 1971 and 1981, inflation was averaging 13% a year.
Wow.
I mean, just ridiculous.
Yeah.
And so the problem is that we've not had inflation. The good news, we've not had inflation for the last 20 years. Since the 90s, really, we had any type of inflation. And so I am concerned about that. We have borrowed a lot of money this last, in 2020, over $2 trillion. More money is going to be borrowed because of COVID and other things that need to happen.
Yeah.
Just Social Security and Medicare and all the things that are just a problem going forward. Interest on debt. So I think inflation is going to be a problem going forward, and we really need to pay a lot more attention to it. I mean, think of it right now. You have the average CD rates paying about 0.5%. If inflation right now is running just under 2%, right? You have bond bond, 10-year Treasury bonds are paying less than 1%, we have a problem here.
Yeah.
Absolutely. If you get 0.5% on a CD or 1% on a bond, but inflation's running 2%, and we don't even have inflation yet, there's a big problem because it's an attack on your spending power. So if you just look at inflation costs, taxes, fees on investments, the average cost of a mutual fund is 3%. If you have inflation at 2%, stock market volatility, there's all these attacks on your portfolio. So part of good planning is we have to incorporate these types of what ifs inside of a plan, and most folks are not really looking at inflation in particular. So it is something that I am, again, looking around the corner at what's happening with potential tax increases and inflation. It's something that has to be front and center in a plan now.
Absolutely. Let me ask you, in your opinion, David, why do a lot of people not look at inflation as being part of a plan? Because it really should be. I mean, think about it.
Well, because you put inflation of 3 or 4 or 5% in a plan and watch it explode. That's what happens. And we're taught as, oh well, the hedge against inflation is just buying stocks. Well, except when they go down 50%. Then there's no inflation hedge. So there's a couple things you can do. Number one, we really like dividend stocks. We're one of the few firms, I think, that actually uses dividends as a core piece of a portfolio. It makes sense. You get income. I think Rockefeller, his quote was my favorite thing, and he started Exxon and Mobil and stocks that are still around today, and that was his favorite thing, was to collect income. The secret about dividend stocks is if you get 3, 4, 5, 6% income, even if the market goes down, you still get your cash flow. So one of the things you can do to help to head off inflation is good dividend paying stocks that actually increase their dividends, dividend growers. Second off is using investments. There are certain guaranteed income investments that actually have inflation protection. So for instance, maybe you can get a 2 or 3 or 4% increase over time as markets go up, as inflation rises, that are built into, think of a pension. So what if you had a pension that actually allowed you to not only get guaranteed lifetime income, but actually grew with inflation? So we provide this type of planning for clients. So in the book, I talk about that specifically, about creating your own pension, guaranteed lifetime income plans that have potential for increases with inflation. So we're actually going to be using more and more of those strategies going forward as a firm on purpose, because I am concerned about inflation.
Yes.
So think of it this way. What if you had a retirement plan and we're saying, okay, we're going to get, let's say you're getting X amount of dollars a month and the market crashes, but you're still getting your income. But what if as the market goes up again, you get more income, right? So not only do our clients not lose income when the market falls, which they could theoretically, or be afraid to spend, but what if you had as a piece of your plan, you had guaranteed lifetime income, but also as the market goes up, as we have inflation in the market, we actually get increases in income. So the cool part is not only do we have the lifetime income benefit of these type of strategies, but very few people, I don't think I've seen a single client have a plan that included a lifetime income plan with a guaranteed, with the inflation protection. And so it's something, again, looking at taxes, looking at the deficits that we have, the federal deficit, the budget deficit. I am more and more putting strategies inside of planning to deal with inflation head on.
Okay. David, this is the perfect time for us to open up the phone lines to the viewing audience for the very first time this week. So I'm just going to go ahead and start doing that, if that's okay. And then we'll come back and talk more about retirement. To the viewers at home, the number to call is 866-739-3775. What David is offering you is a complimentary retirement review, and if you have assets of $500,000 or above, this plan will be beneficial to you. Allow him to take a look at what you currently have in place. Is it the right plan? If not, David can design one that's going to work for you to last throughout your entire retirement years. Also, you'll be able to get a copy of his amazing book. So please pick up the phone. The number to call is 866-739-3775. We have to take a very short commercial break. When we come back, I'm going to have more questions and answers with David about how to plan your perfect retirement. Please stay tuned.
How confident are you in your current financial plan? Do you know with certainty how the recent market volatility will affect your future hopes and dreams? How much are you paying in taxes? And how much are you losing to unnecessary high fees? You didn't work to save this money so that you could spend your time worried in retirement. Now is the time to take charge of your finances so you can feel confident about your future. Call in during the next 30 minutes of today's show only to set up an absolutely complimentary, no obligation, full-blown financial review that will result in your own customized written plan. This is a $999 value that we're giving away complimentary to the first 10 people who respond. We'll start with a full-blown analysis of what you already have. by running a report to untangle how much you are currently paying in fees, how you're allocated for risk, and what it's costing to work with your current advisor. Next, we'll identify your goals. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Where do you want to go, and who do you hope to go there with? Is your current financial plan set up to get you there without mishap? Let's design a roadmap to create a financial plan you can follow with confidence. Get the piece that so many people are missing from their retirement. Find out how having a written plan can make a difference to your retirement dreams. Call now to schedule your complimentary, no-obligation, full-blown financial review today.
Welcome back to The Retirement Architect. My name is Cynthia Defazio, and I'm joined today by David Reyes. He is founder and chief financial architect of Reyes Financial Architecture. David, a great first segment, and I love talking about the importance of factoring in inflation because, like you mentioned, so often plans do not encompass inflation, and of course we know cost of living is going up.
That's right.
Let's talk a little bit about some red flags as you're approaching retirement. How detrimental is it for someone approaching retirement without a plan?
You know, I think it's crazy. You know, there's an old saying that, you know, people spend more time with their plans for their vacation than they do on their retirement. And it's true. And I think the biggest problem I see is that the biggest red flag for if you don't have a retirement income plan, I think it's different. Retirement plan, I think what's more precise for folks, and I have to be careful myself about a retirement plan. We're talking about retirement income plan in my world, right? Because that's what matters, trying to create income.
Sure.
Most people do not have a retirement income plan. They may have an investment plan, but the fact is, if you don't know precisely how much money you can take out over the life of your retirement with inflation, after taxes, all to pay for vacations, visit the grandkids, all that stuff, you don't have a plan. And so that is a problem. And I will tell you, I can count on one hand the amount of clients that's come to me in 25 years with a written plan.
Wow.
I'm not talking about a boilerplate, you know, something that was spit out of a word processor, right?
Yeah.
I'm talking about a custom retirement plan that was written for a client, specifically for them, specific investments, their exact goals, all those types of things. And so, you know, it's concerning to me, and I know that again, I can count on one hand, literally in 25 years. And so that's just the biggest problem and that's why I always tell people, you know, we go to our doctors to get second opinions when we have health issues or concerns. I mean, you know, let's look at it in a positive way. How can we improve upon? Let's not look at it a negative, what's going to go wrong. How can we do better?
Sure.
And I think nowadays it's just so complicated between taxes, estate planning, long-term care, all different types of investments. You can use real estate, there's annuities, there's stocks, it's too complicated.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
There's a gentleman a lot smarter than me. I remember he said, you know, with the internet, it's, you know, we're now drowning in you're drowning in information and starving for wisdom. And we are. You can go on the internet and you can learn anything you want. Doesn't mean you're going to be good at it.
Yeah,
have you had the
true.
experience to go through 2000, 2008, have your clients survive and thrive during those time frames?
Yeah.
And so experience, I think, is important. And so I always advise clients, whether it's ourselves or another firm, get a second opinion.
Sure.
On whatever you have. So that's the one thing I pound the table with and say, look, you know, just go talk to somebody.
Yeah.
That even if you picked up a couple things, I think it's important. And I always tell clients, if you come see me, at a minimum, you're going to learn things you didn't know.
Absolutely.
So I think the biggest thing is not reaching out and getting help, or again, a second opinion, a second set of eyes.
Okay.
So that I think that's definitely a challenge for some people, and I hope that they can do that.
Absolutely, I agree 100%, David. Let me ask you also about what about if someone's money is all in one investment? Is that a red flag for retirement?
Well, I think the big lesson in 2020. I'll give you an example of Apple stock. You know, Apple, it's the holy grail. Well, you know, Apple was down 30% from its highs in 2020, and I have a lot of clients that own Apple stock coming to me, and so there's no magic investment, there's no magic stock. We need to have a plan that's going to be magic, hopefully, that for us to, and part of that is just not having all of our money in mutual funds, not having all of our money in real estate, whatever it is. If people are comfortable with real estate, you know, real estate markets can go down. I have a lot of clients who are successful business owners, and maybe all their money's in their business. So I think over allocating to any one type of asset whether it's stocks or bonds or whatever it is, I think that's a problem. And there's other things to do. We can invest in real estate. There's other guarantee types of sources of retirement income that we can get into that people are not aware of how it works and the benefits. So I think there's just more larger areas to invest our money in, above just saying you own too much of one company. You may own too much of stocks. Maybe 50% stocks is too much for you.
Yeah.
Maybe it's 30% stocks. Maybe we diversify into other asset classes like real estate or other types of things.
Sure.
To create cash flow, to create diversification.
Okay.
So I think that's a good point. And I'll say in general, most people are just too risky with their assets, and they don't realize it till it's too late.
Yeah.
Till they're freaking out because the market's down 20, 30%.
Yeah.
And so we want to be a little more proactive about that, and let's evaluate what we have while things are good.
Okay.
We're in a position of power, right? Not freaking out. So it's always good to have things looked at when things are good.
Absolutely.
Not when things are bad. And unfortunately, we tend to do that.
Absolutely. Let me ask you a question, David. What about meetings with the financial advisor? What about people that are in the viewing audience and they're thinking, oh my gosh, I haven't heard from my financial advisor in a couple years? That's a red flag, right?
Yeah, and typically what that means, especially if you've ever heard the words like this, that the market's down and you're down 20, 30%, and they say, don't worry, it'll come back. Well, you need to find another advisor.
Yeah.
And unfortunately in our industry, there's not a lot of proactivity in managing risk and in doing planning. If you've not heard from your advisor and you're retired or getting ready to retire, and you don't have a retirement plan, a written plan, then you need to get a second opinion at a minimum, or seek out another advisor, or you may be your own advisor, if you don't have your own plan. But the fact is if you're not hearing from an advisor, then reach out to them. I mean, I don't like clients just making changes for themselves to make changes. But the fact is if you're not getting the help that you need, and make sure you're with a retirement expert. There's a difference between a retirement income planning expert and somebody who manages your money.
Okay.
So specifically, if you've not heard from your advisor, reach out to them, talk with them, but also look at maybe talking to somebody else that maybe has more expertise if you're looking to retire or you're retired and you want to have more focus on income planning in retirement.
Okay. Thank you, David. Also, what about rising healthcare costs? Should people be factoring that in? Sometimes do they fail to plan that in advance, if you will?
Absolutely. I think the biggest risk, as we talked at an earlier show, my grandfather lost everything he had to long-term care, everything. Yeah. He had no debts, he had nothing, went bankrupt over a 4-year period, lost everything he had. Almost lost the house to the government through a tax lien. And so, we have to, long-term care and healthcare is something that we'll have to deal with head on. The problem is it can be expensive, but at a minimum, I tell clients at least we need to go down the path of saying, here's what you can do. Typically, we can make it affordable to healthcare costs. I think the average cost of healthcare and long-term care is 5 or 6 or 7% a year. It means it's doubling about every 10 years.
Wow.
And so if you don't deal with that head on, we're going to have a problem. And not only is it a problem just for your quality of life, but really as important, or sometimes more important, for your kids and grandkids. Do you want to leave them with something? Yeah. So sometimes we're just dealing with long-term care and those types of issues with healthcare as an asset protection instrument. Saying, well, everything goes to hell. At least maybe I'm okay, but I want to make sure I don't have to sell my house and my rental properties and all that stuff.
Sure.
So it's something that we're going to deal with as part of our planning head on. But a lot of people don't want to pay for a long-term care cost, because it can be expensive. Typically, we can make it so it is affordable, but at least with me, I'm going to say, here's what it would cost to do this. Here's how we can pay for it in a plan, and not dig our, bare our head in the sand and say, oh my gosh, we can't afford to do that, because maybe we can't afford not to do it.
Sure.
But a lot of times, it's really about the kids. And the biggest motivation for most of my clients is, well, David, I don't want my kids to have to worry about, taking care of me. I want to make sure that I leave them something and not have what happened to my grandfather and have the house, the only thing he had left, a $50,000 house in Fresno, almost gone. Yeah. And so, because it was sentimental, it was what I call a sacred asset.
Absolutely.
So that is a big factor, and very few advisors I see deal with that, because again, it's complicated. Yeah. And again, you have to want to do that.
And take the time to do it.
Absolutely. So it's an important piece. What I'm doing, if somebody becomes a client, we're going to set a separate meeting specifically for long-term care. and healthcare costs, because that's something, whether again we implement that plan or not, they're going to know what that would look like.
Absolutely. Well, David, it's time for us to open up the phone lines
Perfect.
again to the viewing audience at home. To our viewers at home, the number to call is 866-739-3775. What David is offering you is actually a complimentary retirement review. Let him take a look at what you currently have in place. And again, if you have $500,000 in assets or more, this plan will definitely help you and to allow you to retire with confidence and being comfortable and sleep with peace of mind at night. Again, the number to call is 866-739-3775. We have to take a very short commercial break, but when we come back, I'm going to have more questions and answers with David about planning your perfect retirement. Please stay tuned.
As a good saver, you've been putting away money during your working years. Studies find that the biggest fear of retirees is running out of money. Market volatility isn't just the downward movement of stock prices, it's the size and frequency of change. The more dramatic the ups and downs, the higher the volatility. This can put savers who are newly retired or a few years away from being retired at greater risk. Today's generation of retirees is not receiving traditional pensions as our parents or grandparents did. Instead, we have retirement accounts such as 401ks or 403bs. These accounts typically expose your money to market risk. The last thing you want right before retirement is to lose a portion of the money you need for income. But how do you turn these accounts into a retirement income? Is it safe to keep all your retirement money sitting in the stock market? The last thing you want is to lose a portion of the money you need for income due to market loss. By working with a financial professional, you can learn how to turn a portion of your savings into an income stream for life and income for the life of your spouse if you're married. We all have moments in our lives when we wish we had taken action sooner. Don't let procrastination reign on your retirement parade. Act now before it's too late. Please call our office to set up your no-cost, no-obligation retirement income review today.
Welcome back to The Retirement Architect. My name is Cynthia Defazio, and I'm joined today by David Reyes. And David is the founder and chief financial architect of Reyes Financial Architecture. David, a great show, and talking about, obviously, we started about inflation, the importance of planning ahead for inflation, and then we talked about maybe some retirement red flags. So I wanted to ask you, so often in life we hear about people that are working so hard and they're taking care of others before taking care of themselves. Are you seeing that a lot in your experience in the office?
It's funny. I would say when I was a younger advisor, yes. Not so much anymore. My average client's probably about 67.
Okay.
Probably just retire for a little bit. And so, I hear more of, whatever happens, my kids will get what I leave them. But, and they say that tongue in cheek because they really do care, right? But I think, clients are retiring, I think, a lot later. When I first started doing retirement planning back in the 90s, my average age of my client was a lot younger. Now, granted, I started working with educators. All my clients were college professors. They had pensions. They had their state teacher retirement system, public employees retirement system. That was part of it, I'm sure. Just like we all used to have a lot more pensions. Yeah. So I think right now we have to be a little more selfish and saying, hey, how can I maximize and create cash flow today? Most of my clients aren't, saving another 5 or 10 years for retirement. They're already either about to retire or they're retired. So I don't have a lot of. If I was giving advice to somebody that's in their 50s, early 50s. Take care of yourself. You've taken care of your kids. You got to pay yourself as far as retirement. But for our specific clients, our clients are concerned about protecting capital, creating lifetime income streams they can't outlive, inflation, taxes. And so, the way we pay ourselves really, I think, is just to pay attention and to spend the time it would take to do planning. Is the advice I give. Take care of yourself in that respect, because if you do that, everybody else is going to be taken care of by default.
Sure, absolutely. It's kind of like you put the mask on the person next to you. And
That's right, first. That's right.
It's exactly like that.
Now it's 2 masks on, right? I'm not sure. That's a whole nother one.
Exactly. Let me ask you a question about retiring with debt. What is your advice to people that are approaching retirement? Should they pay off as much as possible before their retirement years? Should they be completely debt-free? What is your take on that, David? That's
a great question, and I'll tell you, 9 times out of 10, I'll tell you I don't want debt. We don't want debt. What's happened with rates being so low, I'll tell you for the first time, I've actually, with certain clients, we've contemplated it. It all depends. Sure. Like life, it depends. I would say as a general rule, don't like debt. Because the reality is, let's say somebody has a $100,000 loan with a $2,000 a month mortgage. I'm making this up partially, but the fact is, as an advisor, Can I create $20,000 a year of income off $100,000? You know, because if I say, oh great, I can take your money and I'll make you more money. No, if I can't like double it by going from 3% to 5% or whatever, then I'm out. I'm going to say, okay, let's pay the debt off, because we know it's a known.
Okay.
It's good planning. So unless we can borrow at such low rates, which we can today, and we can afford to do that, then I think there's nothing wrong with carrying debt. I always say it's more important to have the ability to write the check than pay the debt off.
Okay.
I mean, so if you had a $250,000 mortgage, you're paying $1,500 a month. If you have $250,000 sitting in the bank to pay it off, well, if it's only costing us 2 or 3%, let's say it's costing us 3% to borrow, and maybe we can make 5 or 6%. At least with that, if we're conservative, we can always write the check.
Sure.
But again, as a general rule, I don't like debt. I'd rather just play. I think we have no debt, we have no liabilities. Then we can, because that's like an annuity too. We have guaranteed, right?
Yeah,
we don't have that expense like a guaranteed income. We have guaranteed debt that's not there. So if you asked me that a couple years ago, it would be flat out don't have debt. Now, because rates are so low, I think it gives us flexibility. But the caveat also would be, do I have the ability to pay off my house? Yeah. I think that's the most important.
Absolutely. David, what piece of advice can you give someone who's maybe 5 years away from retirement if they're watching the show today?
Get a plan. Okay. See an advisor. I don't care if you have an existing advisor. I don't care if you've done your own planning. See a retirement income planning expert, not a retirement plan, a retirement income planning expert. This is the key differentiation. And there's not a lot of people, that's what their specialty is, dealing with an advisor that deals with taxes, estate planning, long-term care, Social Security, all of that. Do it now, because a 5-year window is a good window to accomplish a lot of things. So sit down with somebody who's a retirement planning, income planning expert, and get a plan from them. Most people will do some things for you and won't charge you to do a basic plan. That's what I would recommend. Okay, because people may think, oh my gosh, I'm so close, is it too late for me? So I'm glad that you said that. No, 5 years is the perfect time. 10 years is better if possible, but of course 5 years is still something that's very workable. So the most important component is to have the retirement income plan. Yep. Absolutely, and customizable to that person. Yes. Which is key. And that's what you specialize in, is really getting to know each client that comes in one-on-one, spending time with them, assessing what their needs are, and then designing the plan. Like you said, it takes hours to design the plan. It's not something that's instant, and it's not cookie cutter. So again, that definitely sets you apart from so many other advisors out there, David. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I can't believe that we have only a minute left in the show, because every time we're together and we're talking about such important topics, the time just flies. But again, I do want to bring mention to your book. It is an Amazon bestseller. It's amazing. It's a great read for anyone who is looking for information on how to retire with confidence. The nuggets of wisdom are definitely within there. So thank you for another great show. Thank you. To the viewers at home, the phone lines are once again now open. That number is 866-739-3775. Let David take a look at what you currently have in place. What he's offering you today is a complimentary consultation, a retirement review, if you will. Allow him to see what's working for you and maybe what needs to be tweaked. Again, your retirement should provide peace of mind, security, and comfort. Thank you for watching today. Be safe, be happy, be blessed, and we look forward to seeing you here again next week. Take care.